I'm Wonkster 1970, and today I'm going to be replacing the idler arm and the Pitman arm on the 2019 Chevy Silverado 2500 High Country with the 6.6 liter Duramax diesel engine. So let's get started. This is a Pitman arm that I'm going to be installing. It's K440019. Got this from Moog, or suspension parts, part of a kit. So I got to get this one out, or get this one on, get the other one out. Hopefully it only goes on one way. And start that, I got to get some well, I gotta disconnect the negative terminal, and that looks like it's gonna be 10 millimeter. So let me get that first and disconnect the negative so I can work underneath. This is a 10 millimeter. Next, I'm going to be removing this inner splash shield. There's a number of torques, very small torques, so I'm going to take all them out and see if I can get into seeing the steering, because I think I'm going to have to disconnect the steering shaft. There were 20 screws that held that splash shield in. I've got all of them removed, splash shield out. It looks like I'm going to have to take that bolt out there once I get the gearbox. Well, first I got to get the Pitman arm disconnected. Then I'm probably going to have to take off the sway bar. And then once the sway bar is off, disconnect the gearbox. There's 2 power steering lines up there that got to be removed. And then slide that out. There are 2 batteries in this, and one on the driver's side, on the passenger side. So I just connected the negative on both of them, and the size that I was using to remove those other ones. It's a T15. I'm going to remove this anti-sway bar from the front. Looks like we got 2 bolts here, 2 bolts over there, and a bolt here we got to pull out. So I'm going to get all that out of here and see if I can get into this a little bit better. These bolts are held in with this takes a 10 millimeter socket to get these bolts off. I just broke my 10 millimeter Mac. And get in our socket. Okay, the sway bar has been removed. And now I'm going to see if I can get those connectors off up in there. They are right up there. I'm not sure if they pull out. I don't know if it plug in on the top. That would be nice. I'm going to see if I can get this one off. Both these connectors had a little red clip on there. You had to slide back and then push in on the connector, the clip, for them to slide off. That one up there was more difficult. I got both of them out. Now I'm going to see if I can disconnect this. I should try and move that other one also. See if I can turn that centerpiece. If I can turn that, then I might be able to just pop that out. This is a puller got from Harbor Freight. I'm going to try to use this to break that Pitman arm loose. And I think that'll probably take not that size. 16 millimeter socket. Over there, 16 millimeter. I'm gonna see if it'll break loose. No, I want to use my ratchet. I guess so. Seem good. Get a hammer, beat on it. Doesn't seem like it's moving. Well, it took a lot of pounding with a punch up alongside of here, but eventually it broke loose. I should have probably left a nut on there because it came off pretty violently, but it came off. So now I can look into removing that bolt up there and then removing the 2 bolts from the side, and hopefully I can lift that up and then out through the front. Back in there is a bolt that I need to remove, and then I need to remove these 2 hose lines before I can get the pump out. Before I can get the gearbox out, steering box. I got a 12 millimeter socket on there with a short extension, and I'm going to be taking that bolt out. These take an 18 millimeter line wrench. There's very little room to get in here and turn them, but I sprayed the top off with some brake clean so I don't get any dirt going down inside of them. Once I get them off, I should put plugs on them. I'll have to see if I have any will fit it. Got both those lines off. Would have been easier with the intercooler line out of the way, but I was able to get them off and moved over. So now I'm going to remove these 3 bolts, and then hopefully the gearbox will come out of there. They're pretty big, probably about 20. Going to be removing the wheel, and to be doing that I'm going to be using a 7/8 socket and my Harbor Freight electric impact gun. Now that I've gotten the wheel off, I'm going to be taking those 3 bolts out, and I'm going to be using the impact gun on them. Okay, I've got the gearbox or steering box out, but I can't lift it up high enough to clear that link. So I'm going to have to take this tie rod end off, and then hopefully it gives me enough room. Maybe I can just knock it loose and then drop it down some. That'll give me enough room to get that out. Okay, I got the entire box, got the steering gear assembly out of the truck finally, and I had to remove, use this puller, and I had to loosen this up and disconnect that idler arm so that I could get this entire assembly down far enough to move the gearbox or the steering box up out of the way. So now that that's out, I'm going to be replacing the Pitman arm. I don't know how good you're going to be able to hear me. It's windy out here, but I used paint marker by Overseas. Used them. I got a white one here, and I painted here to line up how this pinion or yeah, whatever, however this was lined up. And then down here on the adjustment for the gearbox, I lined everything up here. What I'm going to do is loosen this up and then give it like 90-degree turn. See if I can tighten this up just a little bit. It's not bad. I'm just going to see if I can just take up some of that slack. So I need to find a wrench that fits this, and then whatever size Allen this is. This takes a 19 millimeter. Use a 19 millimeter wrench and a 6 millimeter socket. I mean, yeah, Allen or hex bit, whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to try to hold this in place. Loosen this up. Maybe. Figure. I'm going to give it about a 90-degree turn. Made it a little bit tighter. I'm going to hold it in that position. Right where it was lined up. You can see I got about a 90-degree turn on it. Might have made a little bit of difference, not much. Now I gotta find a socket. Get that off. 46 millimeter socket. That's a 1-inch drive. This is a 3/4 inch drive to 1/2 inch adapter. Or no. Is that 3/4? Yes. 1 inch 3/4 adapter. 3/4 to 1/2 inch drive adapter. Now I got to get my impact gun and try to get that off. Let's see if I can get this off. I don't know if that was even on as tight as it should be. Didn't seem that tight. Lock washer, nut. Take a look at this. Flashlight. Doesn't look like there's any marks on here. Let's get the puller on it. There's a mark right here and here, and that's where flashlight. There's a tooth, there's a space in it right there and there. So I'm thinking that's the mark. I'm gonna mark this. Just make sure I get it lined up the same way it came off. I don't think it'll be an issue. Put this puller on it because it seems like it's a little tight, a little snug. seem to be moving, does it? It doesn't want to move either. Is it moving? I think it's moving. Let's see. There we go. It's about ready to whack it. That looks okay. Get our new one on there. Yeah, it's only gonna go on one way. And that mark right there lines up with the one I took off. Back on there. Try snugging that up. Try not to use the impact gun on it. Yep, that's lined up. Double check. Looks good. Find the torque specs for that. Torque specs for this are supposed to be 273 foot-pounds. Torquing it at 200 first. See if I can get a hold of it with something. Find a way to hold on to this. This is 250 foot-pounds. That's as tight as I'm gonna get it. I'm installing this grease fitting. I'm gonna go right up on top of here. That takes a 7mm. I'm using this angled wrench. It's the only one I could find. It was a 7mm. Okay, that should be good. I can take this nut off. Pull this protective sleeve off. Actually, I'll leave that on for now. So I'm going to spray this off with brake clean. and hopefully put it back up in the truck. These 3 bolts seem to be torqued to 203 foot-pounds, so I'm going to torque them to 203 foot-pounds, and then I'll be back. I got the gearbox in also, the steering box, but I need to get the lines put on top. I don't have them installed yet, and I don't have the steering shaft installed. So I'm hoping once I get this on, I can get up there and get the steering shaft installed and then get these 2 lines put back on. All 3 of these bolts are torqued up to 203 foot-pounds. You are technically supposed to replace these. I didn't have any on me, so I just torqued these back down. So I'll be getting some replacement ones here in the near future. Now I'm going to see if I can get that steering shaft hooked back up. You can see there, it's pretty hard to see, but the steering shaft is back on. I had to wiggle it around a little bit, get it to line up, and I got to get the bolt back in there. I got some Loctite on the bolt. It's a blue Loctite. I'm going to be putting that back in. I got the bolt back in. I'm torquing it up to 33 foot-pounds. Make sure. 33 foot-pounds. Before I forget, I want to get this connector back on up here, and that's going to be a pain to reach. Up around, and I can't quite get my arm in there. Should be able to. Get some stuff out of my way. Try another arm. Can't quite reach it. I'm gonna have to take my coat off. I got the connector back in, clicked into place, and then I had to push this little red lever back down to lock it in. So it's good. Now I'm gonna go and see if I can get those 2 hydraulic lines back on. Got that other line on. To be able to get that on, I had to take these 2 bolts out here, tilt the gearbox a little bit, and then I could get that line back in. So I got that tightened down, got the other line tightened down, retorqued these bolts to 203 foot-pounds, and now I'm going to probably remove the idler arm, put a new one in there, and then torque everything back up. This is a replacement idler arm that I'm going to be installing. Move part number K400018. And it looks like it's held in by 2 bolts. I got to get them out. I already have the nut off of the other one. So let's see what size they are. This takes a 15/16 on this side, probably something metric, but I don't have a metric that big. So I'm using a 15/16 wrench. I'm going to take these 2 bolts out here. And up here, this takes 18 millimeters. So I'm going to take them out and then see if I can pull this assembly out. There's a set of washers that go up on this side where the nuts are. These. So make sure you get them back on. Remember, put that new one back, the replacement back in. And here's the old one. It took some finagling to get it out, but of course it couldn't come out straightforward. It had to be difficult. So I had to turn it and then pull it out. Hopefully the new one will go in better. Whenever these washers go back in, see this tapered side on the one side, that'll go up against, that'll go away from the nut. I'll go up against the flange or the mounting surface. So that's the way I'm going to put this back in. Flat side towards the nut. Torque specs for these bolts. My battery dead? Torque specs for these bolts are 120 foot-pounds, so I'm going to torque them up, and then I'm going to reconnect this arm here and find the torque specs for that. This took a 15/16 socket, and I torqued this to 46 foot-pounds, and I had to line the hole up with the castle nut so I could get the pin through. And I got to tighten up this other one. I'm going to tighten this one up also to 46 foot-pounds. Well, I had to take a 12mm socket with the ratchet, hold on this end, and tighten this up with a 15/16 wrench, and then I was able to torque this down to 46 foot-pounds with the socket after it was snugged up. So I think that's going to do it for now. I got the idler arm installed and the Pitman arm installed. Gearbox should be all ready to go. I just have to purge the fluid through it. Got to prime it again, and I want to replace these outer tie rod ends, but that's going to be in another video. Well, I'll do it for replacing the steering idler arm and Pitman arm on the 2019 Chevy Silverado 2500 High Country with a 6.6 liter Duramax diesel engine. I'm going to have another video where I'm going to be replacing the outer tie rod ends, and I've got some other, I got the inner tie rod ends to replace, the outer tie rod ends, the upper control arms, and lower ball joints. But in the next video, I'm going to be replacing the outer tie rod ends. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, share, subscribe, and stay safe. Thanks for watching.